G'day guys, this is episode 7 of the Coiled Colorado. If you haven't seen the first 6 episodes, I'll leave a link down in the description for you so you can catch up. This episode we've got a bit on. I've got to chop the sump to clear the tie rod, build up the custom winch and modify the bullbar to mount it to the car. Let's get into it. Right, that's the sump done. It's looks a little bit wild, maybe a little bit ugly, but paint fixes a lot of that. But it should do the job. So there is a couple of ways that I've seen this done. I have seen it done this way in other photos. The way that I and Hyde do it is basically just follow this angle here and just cut it off flat and then weld in a new bung down the bottom there. That would have worked. I was just trying to keep a bit of extra capacity in the system. Is it necessary? I don't know, maybe not, but it certainly can't hurt. So all we have to do now is TIG weld the pickup on, get that set as basically as low as we can, up against the sump here, make sure it doesn't hit, but make sure it's not up too high either. There is a bit of slide on that pipe that we've got sitting there, so we'll get that set at the right height, and then we can slap this back on.
It's been a while since I've done any TIG welding, and I've never TIG welded with silicon bronze rods before, so I roped in my good mate Jeff from All Trim to come up to the shed and give me a hand. That left me in charge of the air blower to keep the pickup as cool as possible, and flipping the welding visor down for Jeff because I'm too much of a tight ass to buy a good auto darkening helmet.
Okay. Click. Click.
Now, just when I thought I was done with the sump, I quickly realised that I'd put the drain plug in the wrong spot slightly, and it wouldn't have allowed all the oil to drain when I was doing a service. It almost certainly wouldn't have been a problem, but I decided to fix it anyway. So I made up a new bung on the lathe and welded it into the right spot on the sump the second time around. Now that cock-up was fixed, it was time to move onto the winch. This isn't a standard size winch and I couldn't find any bull bars that would fit it. So I need to get the winch built first so I can modify an off-the-shelf bar to actually mount it to.
Alright, this is the winch. It's a worn high mount, air free spool, widened drum, bracing. We've got a winch gear or giggle pin, upgraded brake shaft. What else we did upgrade here? We've got the free spool delete as well around here somewhere. So the free spool delete, because we obviously don't need the original free spool because we've got air free spool now. And they are known for being a bit unreliable, the mechanical standard free spool. It's basically like an entry-level competition probably style winch. It'd be single motor. I'll probably run it on 24 volt. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, which way I'm going to do it. There's a few options, which I'll get into another time. But yeah, this would be like a basic competition entry-level winch, but obviously I'm not doing competitions with it, so it should be plenty for what I'm doing with it. All right, it's been a while since I pulled one of these apart and then put it back together. Pulling it apart's the easy bit. Putting it back together is usually the hard bit. So it's been a while since I've done these, so I'll be relearning as I go. So that's the first step in rebuilding, is getting a new bush in. So that's the first one, and you want it flush with the inside of the housing, and then the O-ring is going to sit in there like that. This will be a bit easier to assemble too, because this is the main shaft, and it's good because it's basically separate from the drum, so you can build the main housing without having the drum flopping around. Makes life a bit easier. See, I forgot to fit the new parts that are used from the giggle pin brake shaft sort of setup. There's a few upgrades it does. So this part has already been drilled and tapped into the housing. It does say to use some Loctite on the instructions for it. Bastard. Alright, so they're nipped up. Bit of Loctite. I'm not sure what that shim does. Probably just takes a bit of slack out of it or something. I'm not really sure what it does, but it's there, so I'm using it. Alright, that is a bit fiddly. You can see the intermediate gear here. That is the new washer, sort of thrust washer. Comes with a kit, and then the O-ring sits, a little seat inside that once I get it on. It's all a bit fiddly.
With the winch all put together, I could finally sit it in the bull bar cradle and set about actually making it fit. I didn't really have much choice with what bar would work. My only real options were make my own custom bull bar or modify an X-Rocks bull bar. I want to make this car as legal as possible, so that pretty much ruled out making a custom bar due to the airbags fitted to the car. And I do prefer the look of the ARB or the MCC Falcon bar, but when I looked at the photos of these bars, it looked like a lot more custom work to actually make it fit, if it would even work at all. I think I'll add some maybe dimple dyed infill panels to the wing sections of the X-Rocks bar. I might even chop the hoop off too. I don't really know at this stage. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Help me out.
So that's how it's sitting as of now. I'm still undecided about how I'm going to finish this bar off. I'm a bit wary of modifying it too much. Obviously, I've already modified it a bit, but I'm a bit wary about modifying it too much in terms of like bars and that sort of stuff, because you do see, I have seen photos of fellas who have modified these bars and they've done an extra tube essentially coming from the other side of the headlight there up into the top of this, and it sort of comes on a bit of an angle. I'm not a huge fan of that look particularly. Plus, it does sort of, like for pedestrian impacts, that sort of stuff. I know it's silly, but you know that there's ADRs and all sorts of stuff for that, and the bars need to be tested, etc. And you know, in terms of legalities, it's sort of a bit of a iffy one for me. Even cutting into it to the point I have is technically iffy. What I probably will look at doing is putting an infill here, because that's not really impacting the you know, overall silhouette of the bar. So I probably will put like a dimple dyed panel into here. I might chop this bar off and just make it you know, one flat piece. Now obviously you are losing element of protection. You know, that's what a bull bar's sort of there for, that people think that they're there for. In reality, the only reason I want it is to mount the winch and to give you a bit more clearance, and it is stronger than a factory bumper. All bull bars with airbags essentially have a designed failure point into them, a crush, like the mount it actually is designed to crush. And I have hit a Kangaroo in the past, and the bull bar was straight, but the mount's collapsed, and the same amount of damage sort of occurred anyway. So I'm not overly concerned about animal strikes, because, well, I've only ever really hit one animal, and you know, if it happens anyway, and you still get the same amount of damage, whether you've got a bull bar or not. In my experience, I'm sure there's plenty of instances where bull bars have saved vehicles. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying that if you're going to get a bad animal strike, Doesn't really matter if you've got a bull bar or not, in my opinion, because they're all designed to sort of move backwards and hit the car anyway. Anyway, let me know what you reckon. Leave a comment down below. What should I do with this front bar? Is there anything you think I should add, or what do you think I should do? Tell me what you reckon. Leave a comment. Help me out, because I've got no idea. No, I haven't got no idea. I just haven't decided yet. Obviously with this winch, it doesn't leave a lot of room to mounting spotties. I never really like having two big spotties right in front there. I mean, I've had it on other cars before and it's never been a problem. But I think I'll probably just mount a nice long LED bar across here. I'll probably stick it out from the car a little bit just so it clears the winch. And that way you'll get plenty of light and it won't impact any more on the airflow into the radiator, etc. All right, to finish off, we've got the budget update. It's not going the right direction, it's always going up. But, so I've allowed a little bit of money for steel for the sump. I allowed $60 for that, for the bit of sheet metal and a bit of box section to make the sump. I already had, you know, the tooling and the round bar to make the sump bung, so I didn't allow for that. The winch I bought off a mate, like I said, for $1,200. That was already had the air free spool and a few other, you know, bracing and upgrades, all sort of stuff to it. So that was a pretty good bargain. I was pretty happy with that. No negotiating there. When he said $1,200, I said sold. The brake shaft was $500. The giggle pin brake shaft, $500. The free spool delete kit, winch gear free spool delete kit, $90. I've got a few new seals and a bearing for where the motor goes through the top hat. That was $70. Fair lead, $180. The buzz bar kit was $130. Now I've got to give a shout out here to the high mount guy. I ordered the wrong kit for the solenoid, and I called him up, and it was just after I'd bought the fair lead. I said, mate, I've been silly here, and he just sent the extra bit that I needed, the right bit to go to the solenoid from the motor. No extra charge or anything like that, so top-notch customer service there from the high mount guy. And X-Rocks bar. That was $1,500. So that is a cheap bull bar. I mean, even like the MCC Falcon bars, they're up over the $2,000 mark, I think, from memory. So it is a cheap bar, and if you're going to be cutting into it and modifying it, probably the cheaper the bar, the better, obviously. So it's not my favourite style of bar. If I could have gone with a more like an ARB or MCC Falcon bar, I would have, but obviously, like I said, I don't think it was going to work. That's it for this episode, guys. Sorry it's been so long between episodes if you're really hanging out from all three of you. I've started a new job and it's a lot busier than my last job, so I'm not getting as much time at home working on the car and to edit as well. So you wouldn't believe how long it takes to edit these videos. So bear with me. I am sort of trying to still get them out as much as I can. Next episode, I think I'm going to take a break from the Colorado. I've got a outdoor kitchen to build to keep the wife happy. So if that interests you, come back for that one. See you then.